June 6, 1944. Off Omaha Beach, Normandy. I, Lieutenant Colonel Paul W. Thompson, engineer with the 1st Engineer Special Brigade, steady the floating concrete spud as waves slap against its massive form. The assembly begins under fire, with sections towed across the channel in precise order. Salt spray stings my face, the air heavy with diesel and cordite. Our unit logs the first components in place by midday, the structure designed to handle millions in supplies. Tension builds as enemy shells whine overhead, testing our resolve. The spud anchors firm in the seabed, a critical piece in this floating puzzle. Engineers work methodically, connecting caissons despite the swell. Each bolt tightens under pressure, the sea fighting back. We know the invasion depends on this harbor taking shape. Without it, troops on shore risk isolation. The weight of the task presses, decisions made in seconds amid chaos. Sweat beads on my brow as I check the alignment again. Does this hold the key to victory? In the weeks following D-Day, June 6, 1944, the Allied invasion of Normandy faced a critical challenge. The beaches at Omaha and Gold lacked natural harbors. Supplies needed to flow steadily to support the breakout from the lodgment area. Engineers from the U.S. Army's 1st Engineer Special Brigade, including units like the 348th Engineer Combat Regiment, took on the task. They assembled the Mulberry artificial harbors off the coast. Mulberry A served the American sector at Omaha Beach. Mulberry B supported the British at Gold Beach. These structures, towed in pieces across the English Channel, aim to create protected ports in open water. Construction began immediately after the assault waves. Teams worked under enemy fire and rough seas. The harbors consisted of floating roadways, pierheads, and massive concrete caissons called Phoenix units. These formed breakwaters to shield unloading operations. Spud pontoons, key to the design, allowed adjustable heights for tides. The operation unfolded in the European Theater of Operations from June through November 1904, as forces pushed inland toward Paris and beyond. Key metrics define the scale. Each Mulberry was designed to handle up to 7,000 tons of supplies daily in calm conditions. Over the first month, combined throughput reached about 20,000 tons per day before weather intervened. The full system included over 200 caissons, each up to 60 feet high and weighing 6,000 tons. Assembly required precise towing and sinking in formation, a process that took days under combat risks. Reality check number 1. Records indicate Mulberry B alone offloaded 4 million tons of supplies over 10 months, according to the Institution of Civil Engineers Historical Assessment. This effort built on planning that started in 1942. British and American engineers collaborated on the design. The U.S. focused on rapid assembly techniques. Prefabricated sections were built in England and towed by tugs. The harbors enabled the influx of vehicles, ammunition, and fuel without relying on captured ports like Cherbourg, which fell later. Weather remained a constant factor. Tides varied by 20 feet. Currents complicated positioning. Engineers used survey boats to mark sites. Divers checked seabeds for obstacles. The 1st Engineer Special Brigade coordinated with naval units. They managed beach obstacles first, then shifted to harbor work. Lieutenant Colonel Paul Thompson oversaw elements of this in the American sector. His role involved directing caisson placement amid incoming artillery. The operation highlighted U.S. expeditionary engineering. It set precedents for future amphibious logistics. Supplies sustained the advance, feeding divisions like the 1st Infantry and 4th Armored. By late June, the harbors faced tests from nature and the enemy. Yet their construction marked a shift. Allied forces could build infrastructure where none existed. This ingenuity supported the campaign's momentum from Normandy to the Rhine. The precise assembly of the Mulberry Harbors represented a pinnacle of American engineering craft under pressure. Amid stormy Channel seas and persistent combat risks, our teams synchronized the placement of massive concrete components with mathematical accuracy. Each caisson had to align within feet, accounting for tides that shifted up to 20 feet twice daily. This mechanical discipline enabled the steady inflow of troops, vehicles, and supplies that sustained the Allied advance. Without these artificial ports, the invasion might have stalled at the beaches, reliant on vulnerable, over-the-sand logistics. The harbor's design drew from lessons in expeditionary warfare, incorporating flexible spud piers that adjusted to waves and loads. This innovation not only bridged the gap until natural ports like Cherbourg were secured, but also set a legacy for U.S. military infrastructure. Future operations would build on this model of prefabricated, deployable systems that turned hostile shores into operational hubs. The work highlighted how engineered precision could tip the balance in global conflict, honoring the discipline of those who made it possible. June 7, 1944. Dawn breaks gray over Omaha Beach. I stand on the deck of a landing craft, binoculars in hand, scanning the choppy water. The first Phoenix caissons arrive, towed by tugs that strain against the current. My team from the 1st Engineer Special Brigade waits in small boats, ready to guide them into position. The sea rolls with 3-foot swells, making every movement deliberate. I signal the lead tug, my voice cutting through the engine hum. Steady on that line. The caisson, a hollow concrete giant 60 feet high, sways as it's maneuvered toward the marked site. Divers from the 299th Engineer Combat Battalion slip overboard, lines in hand to check the seabed. They surface, thumbs up, confirming no major obstructions. We work methodically, despite the distant thud of artillery from inland. The floating concrete spud, our motif of stability, lowers first. It's a massive pontoon with adjustable legs, designed to pierce the sand and hold firm. I direct the crane operator. Lower it slow, watch the tide. The mechanism grinds, metal on metal, as it descends. Water sprays up, cold and salty, soaking my uniform. Tension builds in the quiet commands, each one carrying the weight of the invasion supply line. A wave hits broadside, shifting the spud slightly off alignment. Hold there, I call. 2 engineers in a skiff push with poles, muscles straining. It settles back on mark. We bolt it secure, the wrench turning with rhythmic clicks. By noon, the first section of breakwater takes shape. Trucks on shore wait for the roadways to connect. I check my watch, knowing the schedule allows no delay. Enemy aircraft drone overhead, but our anti-aircraft guns keep them at bay. The air smells of wet concrete and exhaust. My hands grip the railing, steady despite the roll. This is the craft we train for in England, piecing together mock-ups in calm harbors. Now, under real pressure, every joint must hold. A junior officer approaches, clipboard ready. Sir, next caisson inbound. I nod, pointing to the gap. Position it here. Flood the chambers evenly. He relays the order. The team moves as one, lines taut, voices calm. The caisson sinks controlled, water pumping in to stabilize it. Bubbles rise, marking progress. I feel the subtle strain. Decisions made amid the spray. By evening, the outline emerges, a man-made barrier against the sea. Supplies begin to trickle across temporary spans. The work continues into night, floodlights casting long shadows. Fatigue sets in, but discipline holds. Each connection strengthens the whole. This harbor will feed the advance, 1 ton at a time. The floating spud stands firm, a quiet anchor in the chaos. The terrain off Omaha Beach presented unique challenges for the Mulberry Assembly. The Normandy coast featured a wide tidal range, up to 20 feet between high and low water. This required precise timing for caisson placement. The seabed consisted of sand and gravel, with some rocky outcrops that divers had to map. Currents ran parallel to the shore at 2 to 3 knots, complicating towing operations. Weather played a central role. Channel winds often reached 15 to 20 knots, generating swells that tested the stability of floating sections. Overcast skies reduced visibility for survey teams, while rain made decks slippery during connections. Communication relied on radio sets like the SCR 536 handheld units for boat-to-boat coordination. Engineers used flag signals as backup when radio interference from naval traffic spiked. Shore-based stations with ANTRC-1 sets linked to brigade headquarters, relaying position data. Logistics formed the backbone. Components arrived via a convoy system from England, with tugs pulling strings of caissons at 4 knots. Supply ships delivered tools, bolts, and welding gear directly to the site. Fuel for cranes and pumps came in 55-gallon drums offloaded by landing craft. Manpower drew from engineer battalions, with rotations every 5 hours to combat fatigue. Map this by voice. Start at the high water mark on Omaha Beach, sector Easy Red. Extend seaward 1,000 yards to the first breakwater line, curving northeast for 2 miles to form the outer harbor. Position spud pierheads at 500-yard intervals along the floating roadways, each extending 3,200 feet to shore. Inner breakwaters create a sheltered basin 1 mile wide, with block ships sunk as anchors at the eastern end. Depth contours drop from 10 feet near shore to 30 feet at the outer edge, guiding caisson sinking. Navigation buoys mark channels, 200 feet wide, for LSTs and coasters. To the west, link to Utah Beach supply routes via overland roads, 15 miles distant. Enemy artillery from inland batteries targeted the site intermittently. Spotters on bluffs, 2 miles south, adjusted fire, forcing evasive maneuvers. Anti-aircraft defenses from destroyers provided cover, with radar pickets 5 miles offshore warning of Luftwaffe approaches. Supply flow began modest, ramping to 2,000 tons daily by week 1. Vehicles rolled off directly onto pontoon causeways, bypassing beach congestion. Weather forecasts from Allied meteorologists guided daily ops. June 19th brought a gale with 30-knot winds, testing the structure's limits. Waves crested at 6 feet, straining moorings. Engineers reinforced with additional cables, each 2 inches thick. Communication logs show urgent calls for more tugs during the storm. Logistics extended to personnel support. Field kitchens on larger vessels provided hot meals, while medical teams treated immersion injuries. Spare parts for pumps arrived via priority airdrop when sea routes delayed. This setup allowed scaling from initial beachhead to full port capacity. The map evolves daily. Sections added as combat permits. By mid-June, the harbor outline secures the American sector's Lifeline. Reality check number 2. U.S. Army engineer historical reports note that WWII handled 7,000 vehicles and 40,000 tons of supplies in its first 10 days before the storm. Per the Engineer Field Manual FM56 documentation, the tactical elements intertwined, each decision on placement affecting the whole. Terrain dictated depth requirements, weather set the pace, comms ensured sync, and logistics delivered the means. This voice map traces how engineers turned open sea into structured port, one calculated step at a time. June 19th, 1944. The Channel storm hits without mercy. Winds howl at 30 knots, whipping waves to 8 feet. Mulberry A, our American harbor off Omaha, takes the brunt. Caissons shift under the assault. Moorings strain against the pull. Engineers from the 1st Brigade scramble aboard rocking sections, pumps working overtime to counter flooding. The command comes down from headquarters. Secure what you can, prioritize the roadways. But nature overrides plans. One Phoenix unit cracks, concrete splintering with a deep groan. Water surges through, pulling adjacent pieces out of line. The floating spud, that steadfast anchor, twists in the seabed, its legs bending under force. Lieutenant Colonel Thompson directs teams by radio, voice steady despite the gale. Hold the pierheads, reinforce with cables. Men in life vests battle the spray, hands raw from rope and metal. The shift is sudden, irreversible. By June 22nd, Mulberry A lies in ruins, sections scattered like broken teeth along the shore. Supplies halt, forcing a pivot to beach unloading and the British Mulberry B. This weather event, unforeseen in scale, tests the entire design. Engineers adapt, salvaging parts for repairs elsewhere. The command decision follows. Abandon full reconstruction of A, focus on B's stability. This inflection redirects the campaign's logistics. Fuel and ammo reroute through Gold Beach, extending lines by miles. Yet it reveals the harbor's core strength, partial success amid total challenge. The advance continues, slower but unbroken. In the aftermath, hands grip sodden logs, noting the spud's warped frame against the calming sea. One common myth holds that the Mulberry harbors were a complete failure after the June storm, rendering them useless for the Normandy campaign. This view stems from post-war accounts focusing on Mulberry A's destruction, suggesting the entire project wasted resources. In reality, evidence shows the harbors played a vital role despite the setback. Mulberry B in the British sector remained operational and handled significant throughput. Records from the U.S. Army Transportation Corps indicate it offloaded over 2 million tons of supplies by October 1944, supporting both American and British forces. The design's flexibility allowed salvage from Mulberry A to reinforce B, extending its service life. Official histories, like the U.S. Army Green Books on engineer operations, note that without these ports, supply rates would have dropped by half in the critical early months. The myth overlooks how engineers adapted, using beach unloading alongside the remaining harbor. This partial success demonstrated the value of prefabricated infrastructure, influencing later amphibious doctrines. Sources such as NARA RG 336 confirm the harbor's contribution to sustaining the advance, refuting the failure narrative with documented metrics. October 1944. Antwerp's fall opens new supply lines, but the memory of Mulberry lingers off Normandy's coast. I, Lieutenant Colonel Paul W. Thompson, survey the remnants from a patrol boat, the water calm now under autumn skies. Mulberry B stands resilient in the British sector, its caissons weathered but holding. The floating concrete spud, That steadfast motif of our ingenuity rises and falls gently with the tide, legs embedded firm in the seabed. Engineers from the 1081st Engineer Port Repair Group work alongside, patching sections salvaged from the storm-ravaged A harbor. The air carries the tang of rust and sea salt, tools clinking methodically against metal. A junior engineer hands me a report, his face lined from months of exposure. "Sir, throughput steady at 5,000 tons today." I nod, scanning the figures. Vehicles roll off the pierheads, tires thumping on the pontoon roadways. Fuel drums stack in orderly rows, bound for the front near the Rhine. The consequence of our assembly unfolds here. Supplies sustaining Patton's push eastward. Yet the aftershock weighs subtle. Decisions from June echoing in every load. A wave laps the spud, spray misting my boots. I grip the railing, recalling the gale's fury. Men lost in the storm, their craft evident in these surviving spans. We adapt now, extending the roadways further inland to bypass eroded beaches. Welders arc blue flames, securing reinforcements. The pressure eases, but discipline holds the line. A convoy of LSTs approaches, horns low and steady. We guide them in, lines thrown with practiced aim. Cargo nets swing overhead, crates of ammunition and rations lowering to waiting trucks. The motif spud adjusts automatically, compensating for the load. This quiet operation, born from earlier risks, feeds the advance without fanfare. By dusk, the tally climbs, another day's flow secured. Fatigue settles in my shoulders, but the structure endures. This is the legacy taking shape, one connection at a time. The micro decisions during Mulberry assembly, such as precise caisson alignment and spud anchoring, scaled up to strategic impacts across the European theater. At the individual level, engineers like those in the 348th Regiment adjusted for tidal shifts by monitoring depth soundings every hour. This ensured roadways remain level, preventing vehicle delays. A single misaligned spud could bottleneck unloading, as seen in early tests where a 2-foot error halted flow for hours. These choices compounded. On a battalion scale, coordinated shifts rotated 500 men daily, maintaining pace despite fatigue. Logistics tied in, with parts arriving on schedule from depots in Southampton, 100 miles across the channel. Zoom out to divisional support. The harbors fed the 1st Army's advance, supplying divisions like the 29th Infantry with 1,500 tons of ammo weekly. Fuel pipelines from the piers reached inland depots, extending ranges by 50 miles without overland convoys. Communication networks expanded too. Radio relays from harbor command posts to beachmasters used frequency hopping to avoid jamming, ensuring real-time adjustments. Weather data from RAF stations integrated, allowing preemptive reinforcements before swells hit. On the corps level, this infrastructure enabled V-Corps to sustain operations beyond initial projections. Terrain shifted from coastal sands to bocage hedgerows 10 miles inland, where supplies moved via causeways linked to roads. The macro effect rippled to Army Group planning. Bradley's 12th Army Group coordinated with Montgomery's 21st, sharing Mulberry B after A's loss. This cross-sector use maximized throughput, averaging 1,000 tons daily combined by July. Enemy responses factored in. German E-boats targeted outer breakwaters at night, but harbor defenses with 40mm guns repelled most, losing only 5% of sections to raids. Strategically, The harbors bridged the gap until Cherbourg's capture on June 26th. Without them, supply shortfalls could have delayed the breakout from Normandy by weeks. The Cobra offensive in late July drew directly from stockpiles built via Mulberry, with 90,000 tons amassed beforehand. This fueled armored thrusts, covering 30 miles in days toward Avranches. The design's modularity allowed adaptation. Salvaged spuds from A reinforced B's extensions, adding 1,000 feet of roadway by August. Communication evolved macro-wise. Initial voice radios gave way to teletype links by September, speeding requisitions from front lines to ports. Logistics metrics showed efficiency gains. Turnaround for coasters dropped from 48 to 24 hours, thanks to adjustable pierheads. Fuel consumption for tugs averaged 200 gallons per caisson tow, optimized by route planning. The connection from micro to macro appeared in ripple effects. A diver's seabed check prevented a caisson tilt, averting a chain failure that could idle 2,000 tons daily. Scaled up, this supported the Paris liberation on August 25th, with supplies flowing uninterrupted. Enemy intelligence noted the harbor's role per captured reports, forcing defensive reallocations eastward. Weather remained the wild card. Post-storm analysis led to doctrinal shifts, emphasizing redundant anchors. Terrain surveys expanded, using echo sounders for deeper mappings. The overall system proved U.S. expeditionary craft, influencing Pacific operations like Okinawa, where similar pontoons handled 1,000 tons daily. Reality check number 3. USAAF histories record that Mulberry B facilitated 629,000 tons of supplies in its first 3 months, sustaining the Allied push. As detailed in the Army Engineer Waterways Experiment Station reports. This analysis traces how engineer precision at the bolt level enabled theater-wide momentum. From seabed to supply depot, each process interlocked, turning open water into a strategic asset. The harbor's operation demonstrated that controlled assembly under duress could reshape campaigns, one measured placement at a time. June 1944, the storm's aftermath tests us to the core. Off Omaha Beach, I, Lieutenant Colonel Paul W. Thompson, climb aboard a salvage tug, the deck pitching in residual swells. The floating concrete spud, bent but unyielding, marks the spot where Mulberry A gave way. Engineers from the 1st Brigade gather in clusters, faces etched with salt and determination. We face the peak of our challenge, decisions that will define the harbor's fate and the invasion's momentum. The air hangs heavy with the scent of splintered wood and diesel, waves lapping at twisted metal. A radio crackles from headquarters. Assess and report viability. My team spreads out in small boats, lines trailing to probe the wreckage. Divers descend again, bubbles marking their path through murky depths. One surfaces, mask pushed back. Sir, spud legs intact, but caissons shifted 30 feet east. I nod, calculating the realignment. Tugs maneuver into position, cables thick as arms, snaking across the water. The strain builds as winches grind, pulling sections back into line. Metal groans under the load, a low rumble that vibrates through my boots. Enemy spotters inland. Just fire. Shells whistling overhead to splash nearby. Hold steady, I call over the handset. The team responds in unison, voices calm amid the chaos. A wave surges, lifting a pontoon roadway askew. Two men leap aboard, hammers in hand, securing bolts with rhythmic strikes. The pressure mounts, each connection a step toward reclaiming control. Supplies on shore stack higher, waiting for the flow to resume. Trucks idle on the beach, drivers watching our work. The Spud adjusts under command, its mechanism whining as legs extend to grip the seabed anew. We pump water from flooded chambers, the hum of engines steady against the wind. A junior officer relays metrics from the log. We've salvaged 80% of the pierheads. Throughput could hit 2,000 tons by tomorrow if we hold. I weigh the risks. The sea still restless. Combat risks persistent. Another shell bursts close, spray drenching the deck. Evade and continue, I order. The tug shifts course, cables taut. The climax unfolds in these moments. Craft against elements and enemy. A caisson writes itself, settling with a thud that echoes success. Cheers rise subdued, focus unbroken. By midday, the outline reforms, roadways linking to shore. LSTs approach cautious, ramps lowering to offload tanks. The first Sherman rolls across, treads clanking on pontoons. The structure holds, vibration minimal under the weight. Tension peaks as loads increase, every eye on the joins. A crack appears in one panel, water seeping through. Patch it now, I direct. Welders ignite torches, sparks flying in controlled arcs. The repair sets quick, holding firm. The flow accelerates, crates of rations and ammo stacking dockside. Fuel lines snake from barges, pumping gallons by the thousand. The radio reports British Mulberry B secure, sharing the burden. Our pivot here, amid the debris, sustains the American sector. Fatigue weighs on my shoulders, but discipline drives us. A diver emerges with a report. Seabed stable, no further shifts. I confirm the alignment, compass in hand. The Spud stands central, its concrete form a quiet testament to our resolve. As dusk falls, lights flicker on, guiding night operations. The peak passes, not in triumph, but in steady progress. Supplies surge inland, feeding the push towards St. Lo, the harbor, reborn from ruin, channels the invasion's lifeblood. Each decision, from cable tension to pump rate, interlocks to this end. The sea calms gradual, the air clearing of storm's residue. We stand watch, the weight easing as metrics climb. This is the craft that turns tide, one measured act at a time. The harbor's operation wound down as natural ports came online. By November 1944, Mulberry B had proven its worth, standing as the primary artificial gateway until Antwerp's full use in December. Engineers dismantled sections methodically, salvaging spuds and roadways for potential reuse. The American sector adapted by enhancing beach facilities at Omaha and Utah, using pontoon bridges to span tidal gaps. Supplies shifted to overland routes, with rail lines repaired inland to handle the flow. Verified metrics underscore the impact. Mulberry B alone managed 4 million tons of supplies over its 10-month lifespan, sustaining multiple armies during the push into Germany. Another key figure, the harbors combined offloaded 9,000 vehicles in the first 2 weeks post-D-Day, enabling rapid buildup of forces. These numbers, drawn from U.S. Army engineer reports, highlight how prefabricated infrastructure bridged critical gaps. Ripple effects extended to doctrine and technology. The experience shaped U.S. amphibious engineering for the Pacific, where similar systems supported landings at Okinawa with 5,000 tons daily throughput. Lessons in weather resilience led to improved designs, incorporating stronger moorings and modular components. The craft of assembly under fire influenced training programs, emphasizing precision in chaotic environments. Veterans like those from the 1st Engineer Special Brigade carried this knowledge home, contributing to post-war civil projects such as harbor reconstructions in Europe under the Marshall Plan. On a broader scale, the Mulberries demonstrated American expeditionary capability. They allowed the Allies to dictate tempo, avoiding dependence on enemy-held ports. This reduced vulnerability to sabotage and accelerated the advance, shortening the European campaign by months. The legacy endures in modern military logistics, where deployable ports echo the Spud's adjustable stability. Engineers' discipline in Normandy set a standard, proving that controlled innovation could turn open sea into secure supply lines. The quiet persistence paid forward, honoring the process that fed victory. The floating concrete Spud, steadfast amid the channel's fury, embodied our craft in turning open sea into victory's foundation. Its legs gripped the seabed, adjusting to tides and loads, a quiet testament to American discipline under pressure. We built not just harbors, but a legacy of expeditionary resolve that echoed through post-war reconstructions. Each bolt tightened, each caisson placed honored the ingenuity that sustained the advance. In Normandy's wake, our work proved that precise engineering could bridge any gap, feeding the forces that liberated Europe. The Spud's stability reminds us of the hands that made it hold. Amid stormy seas and combat risks, engineers assembled the path to freedom's shore.